Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary Podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce and you're here for our podcast about all things AFL. We also get a little bit cheeky here with our punting as well. And Sauce, it seems like you're a bit of a drummer over there at the moment.
Yeah, Pez is doing a little bit of renovations in his house. He's got all his pots and pans underneath the table, but... Pez, there's some people banging some pots this round. I think the Western Bulldog fans this week, maybe they've stopped banging their pots and stopped harping on about how they're an unbeaten team and they're the only contender in this league.
Well, they're not the only unbeaten team anymore. Well,
No.
them in Melbourne. So got a bit of a touch-up from Richmond, but it didn't come easy. First half was well fought out with Richmond being very inaccurate, including Tom Lynch kicking 0-5. And then... They came out and really gave Bulldogs a lesson in that second half.
Yeah, that second half, trailing by 19 points, kicking 5 unanswered goals. The Bulldogs went scoreless for almost 20 minutes. So
That was the most ridiculous stat I think I've seen in football, where they didn't have a possession for 21 minutes in their forward half. Yeah. Not even just a tap out of the middle and a little handball and a turnover. Not one stat.
yeah, as we've sort of been saying, that they hadn't really beaten anyone, they hadn't travelled anywhere. It was their first real big test, and Pez, just on a question without notice, was it a pass or fail? And they only lost by 22 points in the end. They did have control of the game in that first half, despite Richmond being a little bit inaccurate.
Look, I think it's a good learning curve for them. For the Bulldogs, if you're talking about Bulldogs, it's a big pass because they competed with them in that first half, but they've actually probably learned a few things. I think Josh Shackey, I think he's still going to keep his position this week, but I don't think he's in that Bulldog side when it comes finals in the forward line there. So hopefully Ugle Hagen can eventually get a go, and you got to give him a go before finals to see if he's made of anything and he can actually fire up that forward line a little bit.
Yeah, speaking of fired up, did you hear Beveridge's comments after the game about the number 1 draft pick?
Well, he's not happy about hearing about it anymore, is he?
He's not.
And they've just debuted another young bloke, which we'll speak about later on in our preview, the Bulldogs for this week. They've given him his jumper, and Ugle Hagen still nowhere to be seen. So Bevo's not going to be too happy with journalists this week.
No, the journalist last week asked if he was close, and he sort of unleashed on the reporters saying, well, he was named as an emergency. Last week he wasn't, so he's obviously closer. Like, oh, geez, mate, little bit rolled up there, Beveridge, after a loss.
Yeah, he's not too happy at all. But back to the game, I think Tom Lynch, even though he missed those first 5 shots at goal he had, was one of the best on the ground, along with Shai Bolton. Now, I thought he would play more in the midfield without the likes of Martin and Prestia, but he actually got stuck down forward in that first half, and it couldn't get into the game that much. Hardwick released him into the middle in that third quarter, and he absolutely dominated and just got them the pill. And he can mark it overhead. He's slick around goals as well. He kicked 3 himself.
Yeah, interesting performance from him. Speaking of interesting performance, Pez, Collingwood. Absolutely mailed in another loss. They go now 1-5 for those Collingwood fans there.
1-6.
No, I'm not counting one of those losses because they didn't turn up on the weekend, Pairs. They were at the MCG playing Gold Coast Suns. A lot of those players was their first time ever on the ground. They stuffed up their banner. I know they're saying that there was a bit of a play on words from their 2018 banner against Carlton, but Pez,
You'd hope it is.
Pez, it all went downhill from there, and that was probably actually the highlight from the game.
Well, their joke didn't actually work out. If they were actually meaning to do that, I didn't tell anyone about it beforehand, and then everyone's posting it on social media that they've misspelt the word tonight yet again against the Gold Coast. But talking about the game, Mychek's probably the only one who showed up for Collingwood, and Darcy Moore playing up forward again. Source, I went hammer and tongs last week saying they needed a centre-half back. They had him up there, but they had him at the wrong end of the ground again, and he didn't perform.
Yeah, I mean, no one really performed for Collingwood. None of their forwards. Jordan De Goey returned to that forward line.
Big talking points about Jordan De Goey during the week.
He failed to fire, finishing up with 0-1 and 16 possessions. The defender in Darcy Moore, he also finished goalless. Brody Mychek, who's been gallant for them over the last couple of years, he kicked 4, but other than that, not good enough to have 4 goals kicked by Myercheck and only 7 goals for the game. Who's going to fire and who's going to reignite the Collingwood season down forward? It can't be Darcy Moore. I'm sorry, it can't.
Darcy Moore's gone back, and I saw in the news that Bucks has admitted that now, and he's a defender. He's been training down at Gosh's Paddock this week, actually as a defender. So he'll be back there. Thankfully, they play North and they lose. Buckley's gone. His career would be over. It might already be over and writing on the wall. It'll be over at the end of the year anyway. He's not in contract. But speaking about the Gold Coast Suns, you had Took Miller stand up. You had Brandon Ellis playing out of defence. He even went forward and kicked a goal. One of your man's Sauce. And Corbett, a little bit of a stint in the ruck, and he went forward, kicked 4 goals. So the Gold Coast firing at the MCG. At the
MCG, breaking a 3-11 drought at the MCG, and the first time they've ever beaten Collingwood there. And you obviously that's not an unusual stat, but it's a huge win for that football club, and they come into this week looking to make it 3 on the trot against your Saints.
Mate, especially this Gold Coast team who is riddled with injuries.
No ruckman.
And they should have won early games in the season. Yep. They didn't do it, and now they're proving that they can be that type of side. It might be a little bit too far. They might compete for the 8 or whatever, but they do need to get some players back on the field to be able to do that. But it'll be an interesting game against St Kilda up at the Gold Coast this week.
It definitely will, Pez. And I know that the town's not being painted red, but it definitely is being painted orange, Pez. I can see the orange paint is back out and about. The Giants are on a they've rejuvenated their season, and they're looking for finals and a big win over the Crows.
Mate, they've rejuvenated their season from one man, Toby Green. As soon as he took over the captaincy, I know he only kicked 1 goal 3 on the weekend, but he is pivotal and important. The other week he kicked 1 goal 7, so he doesn't even have to kick 4 or 5 anymore, and they're still getting the win. So Adelaide maybe showing their true colours, but a big thing for GWS was Jesse Hogan coming into that side and kicking 4.
Yeah, first game for GWS there, slotting into a traditional forward spot, sort of showing those highlights that he proved himself when he was in Melbourne on that big contract and through his junior footy. But the big story from that game, Pez, is Shane Mumford. 3 games this year, 3 wins. The mummy is back out of retirement. He's really pivotal for that Giants team, especially with Proust a little while away.
Yeah, they're going to have to continue to manage the old man at the moment. Retired. How many times have he retired now? Twice?
3 or 4 times, yeah.
I don't know what he's doing. But big things in that game is Adelaide at home. Supporters expecting big things. Giants kicked 1 goal 8 in the first quarter, Sauce. Adelaide kicked 1 goal 1. It went to Tex Walker, who has been in form. He ended up kicking 2 for the day. But Adelaide only kicked 4 goals.
Only 4 goals, Pez. But interesting stat for Adelaide. Tex Walker, how many times has he kicked the first goal for the game, for the Crows?
Well, 7 rounds. He would have done that for the Crows. Yeah. 5?
7 times.
Every week.
7 times he's been the main goal, the first goal scorer for the Crows. So if you don't mind a little bit of a cheeky punt, Pez, get all over Tex Walker for the first goal.
Jeez, and sometimes we speak about that, but you talk about the Saints next, and they had a big win, 69 points over Hawthorn, and Hawthorn they didn't kick a goal in the first quarter or a behind. They didn't score.
No, they looked very lacklustre for effort, but even in that first quarter, though, Pez, the Saints had control of the game, but just didn't really put it on the scoreboard and didn't really. It could have been a lot more dangerous than 69 points.
We speak about it a lot when we talk about Hawthorn. Source is the Tom Mitchell type. What influence he has on the game. Now they were missing Sean Burgoyne, they were missing Jaeger O'Meara and Chad Wingard. Tom Mitchell had 38 disposals, 25 of those handballs. You look at Zach Jones on the other team, 37 disposals, kicked 2 goals, 1, easily a 3-vote game, and Tom Mitchell, I don't think will be seen in the votes there.
A bit disappointing from Jones not to get over the 40. He had, I think, 27 at halftime and a couple of goals, and got a little bit quiet in that second half, but the game was dead and buried. Really disappointing for Tom Mitchell. I know this is something that we have made comments on in the past, but they just need to, if you need to look at his metres gains and the impact that he's having, and Hawthorn really need to evaluate if that's the type of football that they want to go with the rebuild, because he's just not damaging enough to be able to do it. They've got some young guns coming through there. CJ, first time this year he didn't get 20 possessions. They've got some really nice run through that middle of the ground. Having him going back and forth and that defensive handball and that almost 1-2 style isn't working for them, and they need to get a move on.
Oh, that's the thing. And if they're going to start games like that, and they're going to go on like against Adelaide last week where they let, 6 or 7 goals in a row go, they just can't have lapses that poorly and just expect to try and come back every week. So we know it's a rebuild. We know they're going to be struggling, but they do need to put up a bit of a better fight than that for their supporters. Same thing with your Port Adelaide power source. Didn't put up too much of a fight against Brisbane. Lockie Neal was out, and the big news before the game, Travis Boak was a laid out as well, so it kind of levelled the playing field there.
It kind of leveled the playing field, and I think that really did impact Port Adelaide. But it wasn't just the not having Boak in there. Port Adelaide just didn't show up. They're the second highest team in the league. They normally generate 58 to inside 50s, but they didn't get any basically in that first quarter. They really let themselves down, and they proved that all the whispers are true, Pez, that they can't win and they can't beat contenders. They failed twice now. They failed against West Coast in Perth.
Both away from home.
Both away from home. So, I don't know how they can fix this, Pez. Are they just a pretender or are they a contender?
Well, if they finish top 2, they might be a contender if they're playing at Adelaide Oval, get a prelim, and then try and go to the MCG and get a win against one of the other really good sides in the comp. They had 3 more inside 50s than the Lions for the game, and the Lions just look so much better on the night. They had Charlie Dixon lining up from 15 metres out in that first quarter, and Mitch Robinson got the free kick reversal up at the 50-metre line. I'd make a rule. It's a blanket rule as a coach of any club at any level. You cannot give away and reverse a free kick when you're having a shot at goal. You wait until that goal goes through, the goal umpire does his thing, and then go hit the bloke and give away a free kick.
Yeah, very undisciplined and very costly because unable to get a roll on from that, Pez. It's not a thing that you like to see from your veteran players.
Oh, it's an absolute smashing. The next game wasn't a smashing. It was in the stat sheet in Geelong's favour with, I think, a big plus 27 inside 50s or something like that source. And they ended up losing the game. They were up by 10 with, a couple of minutes to go. And Sydney just rallied, Papley kicking the sealer.
Yeah, it's a pretty telling sort of game. Geelong dominated all stats. They won contested possession by 40. They won the uncontested possession by 60. They were outmarked by Sydney, but everything else, Pez, was pretty disappointing. The inside 50s was disgusting. They just didn't they didn't capitalise on their inside 50s. They led for 98 minutes of the match, Pez, until that last quarter, which we went into an absolute thriller of a last quarter, goal for goal. And Pez, I said to you beforehand, Sydney versus Geelong, what did I say? And I said it again at the pub.
Nick Davis?
It reminded me very much so in that first quarter of Nick Davis because... I mean, we dominated the inside 50, 65 to 39. Tom Hawk could have put it away in that last quarter, but instead we are talking about a disappointing Geelong, a impressive Sydney, a resilient Sydney, and we're talking measurements, Pez.
Yeah, measurements. You deserve one. The 18-metre kick that was called not 15 metres, but the umpire on review wasn't tracking the ball when it travelled about halfway. No,
I was watching it at the pub with no sound, and when it happened, we thought it was touched because we didn't even enter our mind that it wasn't kicked far enough until later on. We watched the replay and we heard the footage. The moment he kicks the ball, he's yelling out, not 15, thinking the ball's travelling straight up in the air.
Yeah, he's made an error.
Made a pretty big error and a costly error. Now, I don't know if it gives Geelong the game, a left footer in Jeremy Cameron on the very, very tight angle, 7 seconds left, no chance to play on. He's an elite forward. You could say he'd maybe kick that. It'd probably give him a 50% chance, but Geelong didn't. I'm actually glad that we didn't get the opportunity because we weren't deserving of it. You dominate the game like that in all assets of the stat, leading by 30 points in the first quarter. They deserve to lose.
Well, this is the thing. Geelong got one down in their stadium with
the
Brisbane.
Footy gods.
And they've paid it back there, but Sydney are the beneficiaries. Brisbane don't really benefit from that, in all honesty. So I don't know if it's footy gods playing their thing or whatever, but yeah, Geelong should not have lost that game after smashing West Coast the week before and dominating most of the stats. Sydney did well to escape, and they head down to Melbourne to play the undefeated Melbourne this week.
They do too, Pez. We speak of the undefeated Melbourne, and we were looking at a close to an upset at halftime. The Kangaroos came out in flying fashion at their home ground, their home away from home in Tassie. Pez, it was an interesting game, and you were talking last week on the show about a 40-point win to North Melbourne on the cards at ridiculous odds, and that early third quarter, it looked like it could have been on the cards there.
It was looking good. Could have got a bit of a cash out, I reckon, during that second quarter there where North were doing that. But no, Ben Brown came into the side, and Melbourne just kicked away down there and were able to get the win down in Tassie. Fritsch ended up kicking 6. So he had a day out down there, and so he was one of the best. You had Salem, who's always in the best as well. Cozzy Pickett, always great to watch. He had 3 as well.
Yeah, Jackson and Salem were pivotal in that third quarter, really taking over the game and putting it in Fritch's hands. And Isaiah Pickett, Cozzy Pickett, we love him, cashing in for the Demons, ensuring that they went into the last break with a 13-point lead, and they end up turning that into a 30-point win, just showing how elite they can be when they actually turn it on. A couple of young guns from North Melbourne looked impressive though, Pez. Rising Star nomination this week for one of the lads. Tom Powell topped it off with 23 disposals, a goal, Pez, and I think North might have found one during their rebuild, a quality player.
Well, they'd want to hope so because they need to find a bit more. But you had Lucky up there kicking 2, Campbell kicking 2, Cunnington moved forward and kicked 2, and Zerha hit the scoreboard for. It's one of the first times for the year. He's been a bit quiet, Zerha, since Stevenson came across as well. But we'll see what they can put up. They got within my 10-goal margin, which is what I expect from North and their effort. The 10-goal margin, talk about that. The next game, Essendon Carlton, it wasn't 10 goals, but there was plenty of goals to be had, 35 to be exact. Carlton ended up winning this by 16 points, and there were a lot of young guns on display.
Yeah, this was a classic game. This was a typical Essendon versus Carlton game. There was a lot of heat in it, a lot of intensity, and a lot at stake for both clubs. You know, Carlton needing to turn around their season, and Essendon being impressive as of late with their young guns, but their first real big test, I think.
Yeah, well, Essendon, they've been in games, but Carlton, they just had to win this one. We spoke last week about Carlton playing against the Port Adelaide and the Brisbane, and people expecting them to win, which was ludicrous, but I did expect them to win this game pretty comfortably. Got to within 16 at the end. Essendon were up by a couple of goals in that first quarter, Source. Ended up leading into half-time, but then Carlton came out in the third, kicked 6 goals to 4, and then never looked likely of losing. So it was decent. Sam Walsh, another 3-vote game, and he is just growing with confidence round by round.
All right, Pez, if Carlton make the finals, he's a real shot for the Brownlow.
Well, it has to be, yeah.
How many games does he need to be a genuine contender? So we're a third of the way through the season. We're 7 games in. They've won 3 of them. So he's won 3 already. You'd say to be in the top 8, they need, 12 wins?
Oh, yeah, 11, 12, yep.
So he needs to win that many to be a contender, or can he win it from under 11 wins?
Under 11 wins, he has to have really stellar games in those losses, and they have to be close losses as well. They can't be blowouts for him to continue to get that. He also has to go forward and kick goals. So I think if they win 11 or 12 games, he keeps playing like he is. He's a smoky chance to get the near 30 votes and take away the Brownlow medal.
Yeah, one of the teams that was not a smoky chance, Pez, was Fremantle. They continue to have a disappointing show up in the derby. 11 straight losses now, but that wasn't the biggest loss of the day. West Coast lost $2.1 million from playing that game with no fans because of the Perth lockdown. Pez,
it would have been a sellout.
Do you know what they should have done? They should maybe get Optus to sponsor SBS Stadium and get some money in.
Yeah, they maybe should, but it was a real tight contested game. It was unbelievable at the start, and then in the last quarter, West Coast just came out 9 goals to 2, and your man Tim Kelly from Geelong, the 42 disposals. Was it 0 marks or something? I heard.
Ridiculous what you heard, Pez.
0 marks.
0 marks. That's
and 42. How does he get 42 without a little cheapie?
Not only that, mate. 9 tackles, 13 clearances, 2 behinds, but no goals. So a pretty interesting, unusual stat line there, Pez. Not one that you see very often, but definitely he wasn't the only superstar there, Pez. Despite the loss, David Mundy has really turned back the clock, mate. Is he the old Benjamin Button? He's getting better with age. He had another stellar performance, 29 disposals, and yeah. Despite them losing, he has been one of those players that just every year you can't believe he's in the league, and he just gets better and better.
He just keeps going, doesn't he, David Mundy? You've got to wonder if Geelong had retired some of their superstars a little bit early, because they might have been like a David Mundy.
Got the old tap on the shoulder
at 35 years old. But very interesting. Tim Kelly, not just the offense source, he had the 9 tackles as well. So all that effort and what they pay him for, because they are missing Shuey and Yo in that midfield at the moment. But West Coast, they need to win away.
They do need to win away, and the big test will come this week against Hawthorn. And we say it's a big test because they just don't know how to win away from home. And I think being on the MCG, somewhere that they are a little bit more familiar with, should be better for them. But this is the problem with West Coast. They don't win away from home, and they've been in a win-loss sort of regime as of late.
Yep.
They need to break that, and they need to win 2 in a row, and more importantly, win away from Perth.
Well, that's it, and it's a big test for West Coast. It was a big test for you and I on the weekend source with our bets. We'll get into our betting review.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
Well, I know how it ended, Source, and it ended in profit again. So we'll go through the games, and then we'll go through our round and season tally. So the first game was Richmond Bulldogs. Now, we've already spoken about the game. So this is all about our bets. Now, I had the Cheeky on, and I was very happy with this one, Source. I had Richmond -4.5, which ended up getting up. I had Tom Lynch to kick 2+ goals. I was not very happy in that first half when he had 5 behinds. And Shea Bolton to get 25. He spent too much time up forward. He didn't get the 25, only ended with 22. So my Cheeky, unfortunately, ended in a bonus.
Yeah, a little bit stiff there, Pez, because he provided some absolute run through that middle and, really flourished with no Dusty Martin, and he was a bit stiff not to get the 25, Pez. But do you know who was not stiff on that night? My man, Alex Keith, mate. He was never in doubt of getting the 15. And to our listeners, and our special shout out to Dylan, who's been tracking my stats. That makes me 5 for 8 every time I say it's money for jam or money for VBs, as I like to cleverly rename it. That means, Pez, I got to win. 3 league same game multi, Hunter to get 20, Liberatoria to get 20, and my man, your man, Pez, Alex Keithy boy, to get 15.
Can't believe you finished with 18 there. You had 8 during the third quarter.
It did not look good, mate.
You kicked out from full back and didn't cross the line, so it didn't count as a stat Source. And I was thinking, oh, this is bad for Source.
It's good for a narrative. You build the tension.
Got away with the win, which was really good. The next game, Collingwood versus the Gold Coast Suns. I noticed you didn't have a bet, Source. I did. I liked Grundy against the Suns without a ruckman to get 20 disposals, and he did. Still side bottom to get 20 and Pendlebury to get 20. They got the ball. They just couldn't get the goals, Collingwood, so they lost. But I had the little win, $20 there to return 42. Happy with that.
Nice silver lining there for you, Pez, considering you're not a Collingwood fan. So it's good when you get a win from Collingwood and Collingwood don't win. So that's always good. But as I said to you last week, Pez, not really sure of this one. I really was tempted with that Gold Coast Lions, and in the end, I would have been laughing if I'd taken that one. So let's get on to the next game with the Giants and the Crows.
Yeah, I didn't have a bet in this one because it was too close for mine, and the teams obviously weren't out. But bit of news about the team, Source. There's rumours around that.
I heard these rumours.
Thursday night teams might be back. We've been humming and hawing about it since COVID finished.
Not been humming and hawing, mate. We've been very pissy about it. We've been very pissy. There's been no indecision about it.
Especially when we've had to record on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and there's absolutely no teams, and we're going to make our bet slip. But Adelaide GWS, what'd you have?
I had the Giants at a surprising $2 outsiders, and I wish I'd chucked the maximum on this, Pez, but not to be. Just doubled up with a $25 bet, so 50 return for me, and that was 2 from 2, looking very good going into the Saturday afternoon games.
Well, that's the thing, and speaking of max bets, I had a max bet on the St Kilda Hawthorn game, not of anyone to win or Lions or anything. I thought it'd be a high-scoring game because St Kilda haven't been defending well. I was in a bit of strife when Hawthorn weren't scoring the footy, but it ended up opening up in that fourth quarter, and over 170.5 points, got up very easily in the end, had the max 50 on it, returned 95, happy with that.
Yeah, I was a little bit stiff in this one, Pez. I escaped with a bonus bet. I had a 3-league same-game multi. Jarman Impey to get 20, he got 23. Dougal Howard got 15 exactly, so I was laughing about that one. And CJ, Jeth Chang Goth.
Oh, he's had a go at it. Don't do it.
Cheers. Well, he let me down, and it was the first time that he hadn't reached the 20 mark this year. So, again, I escaped with a bonus bet, but a little bit disappointing because that one really would have helped me getting over my season ROI.
Very good bonus bet to suffice. Now, the next game was Brisbane versus Port Adelaide. We spoke about the Brisbane 49-point win Source. I wasn't brave enough to put a bet in before I saw the teams. I was leaning towards Port at the plus, but I didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, I pulled the trigger early, Pez, and this is one of the things that happens when you pull the trigger early in the week, Pez. The Thursday night, putting your bets down, because the moment Boak was out, I was in big strife because that ball movement was not going to get through. I had 25 on them, and they obviously lost by 49, so that was back-to-back crosses for me.
Very, very important he is. And Sydney and Geelong Sydney getting up was no good for the both of us. I had Geelong 1-39, sitting there with 2 minutes to go, 10 points up. I'm like, oh, beauty, I've got another one. And then Sydney steal it and win by 2 points.
Yeah, well, I was even more disappointed, Pez. I had a 3-leg same-game multi at odds at $6.50. Cameron Guthrie to get 30 or more. He had a heap of it. Jeremy Cameron to get 3 or more, so he didn't even need that last kick to get his 3 or more. He had 3.
He needed the last kick to get the last leg, though.
And then the last leg, Geelong to win. So looking at that game, you had to say that was probably the safest one in that first quarter, but not to be. But you know what, Pez? I escaped with a bonus bet, so I've got $50 of bonus bets for the next round of football, which is good for me because it means I'm not outlaying money. But it's disappointing for this round because I could have used both of those wins.
Oh, I could have used both of those and jumped up, and we'll have a look at the ROI in a second. North versus Melbourne. I'm spewing I didn't actually jump on the plus 58.5 source that I chose in our line tipping competition, but you jumped on and were pretty confident with your Cheeky.
Yeah, extremely confident with my Cheeky, Pez, and I'm pretty sure it got up, didn't it?
Oh, definitely not. What do I see there? Melbourne minus 91.5.
Yeah.
You knew after the first quarter that wasn't happening.
Yeah, Pez, and it was a little bit disappointing, not only for the big loss, Pez, but because I wanted such a high line, I neglected Sportsbet because their pick your own line only went up to about 80. I went over to Tab and put the 91.5, and if I'd stuck with the 81.5 with Sportsbet, I still would have lost, but the other 2 legs coming in, Cozzy Pickett in 3 goals and the over 149.5, I would have had a third bonus bet, but not to be.
Bonus. Oh, well.
But we move on.
Move on to the Carlton-Essendon game. I did say I was pretty confident that Carlton were going to win. 1-39, I didn't think they'd blow Essendon away. So I had 25 on that, returned 53.75. A nice little $2.15 odds.
Yeah, and I steered clear, as listeners know from last week. I was really, really topsy-turvy about where I was going in that game, and I'm glad I did, Pez, because Carlton got the win there.
Oh, that's the thing. The next game, the Twilight, the Derby. Bet of the week, line of the week. West Coast minus 4.5.
What a joke.
I know they lost by 97, but we know they don't like to play away from home, and they're back on their home deck. Fremantle, yeah, they beat up on some sides over there, but not their big brother, West Coast Eagles. West Coast Eagles absolutely smashing them. We both had that bet source. I had the max on that, return 95.
Yeah, and I should have done the same, Pez. I only had 25 on it, but not to be. But that's okay because that's a green tick, and it really helped me salute my multi for the round because I had them at minus 1.5 at $1.75, which is money free for anyway. That matched up with Geelong plus 18.5 and GWS plus 30.5.
Very safe.
So that was a nice little win for me, $56.35 collect. So a nice little round for me.
With a little power play on that one as well, Sauce. I lost my little Sauce multi because I had Richmond plus 20.5, which was easy done. I had Geelong plus 13.5. It's still easy done. Carlton plus 21.5. They actually won. And Collingwood plus 14.5, which really let me down, losing by 4 goals to the Gold Coast Suns at the MCG. But it didn't matter in the end. I staked $200 in round 7, returned $285.75, return on investment of 42.87%. That takes me to a total staked of $1,365, returned $1,662.59. Return on investment for the season, the first 7 rounds, 21.8%. Sitting there very happy at the moment.
So you should be, Pez. That's a great way to start. Well, not start, but it's a third of the way through. You're 21%. That is a great way to be in, Pez. I'm just coming up behind you, Nem, because that round for me, staked 170, returned 213.85, so 85 cents. A nice profitable round of 25.79%. Overall for the year gets me closer to my goal, not only in the positive, Pez, but to do that 20%. Staked $1,205, returned $1,189.48, cutting my ROI down to minus 1.28%, Pez.
You're close.
Round 8, I told you, that's where I fire.
Get out of the water. Get out of the water there.
I'm crawling up on the beach. The tide is bringing me in, Pez, and I am ready to...
we're up and about here and behind the boundary after a big round 7. So we're hoping for an even bigger round 8 with our bet slip.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now Bex with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
Oh yes! Yes!
And before we get into all my winning bets, Pez, and into the positive, we better go through the specials for the round.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang.
Yeah, the specials. We're running out of agencies to really look at the specials here, Source. But Sportsbet have done really well again this week. They've got the 3+ leg same game multi for AFL on all matches, up to 3 refunds per match. So if you love a same game multi, take the insurance with Sportsbet there. Friday night match, the Geelong-Richmond, the grand final rematch. If your team kick a goal in the first 2 minutes, you win. That game only up to $250. We've got Tab. They've got the 3+ leg, 1 fails. Now, they've only got 3 games. They've got the Richmond-Geelong game. They've got Melbourne and Sydney on Saturday. And on the Sunday, they've got the Western Bulldogs and Carlton, Source. So we don't speak about too many other promotions at the moment because Neds and Lads, they've been a bit disappointing and only putting 1 and 2 games out there. So if you're going to do a same game multi this week, stick to either Tab with those 3 games, or to be safe, you go Sportsbet. You can actually do up to 3 per game.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of my bet slip consists of, Pez. What about your bet slip? Is that the sort of trend that you're going with? A lot of same game multis, or are you keeping it a little bit more cheeky?
Not so much cheeky. I have gone with one of the specials on the Friday night with the same game multi, but keeping it pretty close to the chest everywhere else.
Everywhere else, Pez. That's unlike you, keeping your cards there. Normally you're a little bit reckless with most of your bets, but we better get things off, Pez, with an absolute blockbuster, the grand final rematch. Starting things off, Richmond versus Geelong at the MCG. $1.57 for the favourites, Richmond Tigers. $2.41 for the outsiders, Geelong. The line is -8.5. The over-under is 153.5. Pez, what are you doing in this one?
Well, mate, it's a massive game. They're saying it's a grand final rematch. It's at night again, just like it was last year up at the Gabba. Should be an absolute cracker because even though Geelong lost last week, Source, they won in all categories and beat West Coast by 97 the week before. So there's some pretty big ins and outs though. So Cochin pinged his hamstring late in that fourth quarter last week, so he's out injured. Dylan Grimes is out injured, and Naish omitted, who was the sub last week. In comes Dustin Martin, fresh back from New Zealand, and Nick Vlauston. So they lose Grimes, get Vlauston, lose Cochin, get Martin. I reckon that's a win for the Tigers. You agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Yeah, I thought you were about to.
No, it was just one of the disappointing. I was hoping that he'd be quarantined, but you are correct, Pez. It's
because you do go for.
I do go for the Cats, but yes, that is definitely
interesting
an upgrade.
Selection with the Cats. What is wrong with Jordan Clark?
I don't know. I was very surprised with that omission. He's been playing some really good football.
We've said that every time he's been dropped this year. Can't see why.
I don't understand. He must be out of favour, and especially when they're picking someone like Zach Guthrie over him. I really don't understand that selection. Jordan Clark offers that pace through the game. We could have really used his pace against the Tigers. He hasn't been really disappointing. I mean, he had 18 touches last week, 5 tackles. He does the right things.
It seems like he's putting in the effort, and he's not turning the ball over like that's really noticeable, as you can see. So he's out omitted. Graham Myers with that bit of an illness, and Quinton Narkle omitted as well. It says illness for Graham Myers. I heard it was a fracture to tibula or fibula.
Well, it's just an illness because he must have watched the review and seen his kicking style, and that's the illness.
That's the illness for everyone in the crowd as well. In comes Sean Higgins back, so they're going with the old blokes, Geelong, and Sam Simpson, who has been impressive in the past.
Sam Simpson has been really impressive when he's played. His trend for him seems to come in for 1 or 2 games and then has a random injury and then goes out. But Pez, what are you doing for this game? Because I'm torn in this one because, as you said, Geelong dominated a lot of the categories last week. Probably should have been back-to-back wins. Probably should have been a big win. And the Tigers haven't been impressive, but they were impressive in that third quarter.
Yeah, well, Cochin comes out, which is going to be a pretty big loss, but Martin does come in, so he can play in there. I think what Hardwick needs to do is keep Shea Bolton playing stints in that midfield because he gives heaps to him, especially without Prestia. I've gone to Tab and I've gone pick your own line. I've gone Richmond -13.5 because I think they can have a win by about 4 goals. Under 174.5 points. So I've picked my own total game points source and put it up a little bit higher and gone the under. And then to add a third leg for the same game multi-special without it going down, I put Richmond -7.5 to give me odds of $2.90. Now, interesting stat there. If I didn't put Richmond -7.5 and I just put Richmond head-to-head, I actually lost 20 cents on the price. So I don't get it, but you just got to play around with that. So tab 290, I've put 25 on it.
And if you think the Tigers are going to win, Pez, that's a nice little bet there, and some insurance on the way too, by the sound of things, which is odd.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah, look, as I said, I'm 50-50 with the game, but I've got to go with my Cats, Pez. I think that they dominated those categories. I think that they're going to be very upset about losing last week, and they're going to be working, watching the game clip, trying to sort of address some of those deficiencies that they displayed. Not only that, it is the grand final rematch. Geelong haven't been really great against Richmond at the G. I think there's a lot riding on this, and it's an important game to bounce back. So I'm backing my Cats in to win in a 3-leg same-game multi. Cats to win, Tommy Atkins to get 15. He's been in ripping form with Dangerfield out. He'll probably get around 18, 19, especially with Jordan Clark out as well. There's more pill for him to get. And Cameron Guthrie, who's been on an absolute tear the last month, him to get 30. That gives me odds of $5, Pez, and I've chucked 25 on that one.
Well, it gives you $5. So lucky you didn't put Zach Guthrie in there. Would have given you $55. So just be aware when you're choosing Guthrie for your disposals.
Oh, Jesus.
We head to this, and I'm pretty excited for this game, Source. I haven't been excited for a St Kilda game for a while, but Gold Coast versus St Kilda. St Kilda got over the line in the last 4 or so matches by under a goal. So it's been a quite a good rivalry. So the Suns will want to have a win. In this one, Source, I think if Rowan Marshall and Paddy Ryder are fit and playing, I think St Kilda just win. I think if one of them doesn't play, I think Gold Coast have the edge. And if both of them don't play, Gold Coast win by about 10 goals.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, Pez. I think being up in Metricon has really swung the bookies' way here. It is quite a close game. Gold Coast are the favourites at $1.79. St Kilda outsiders at $2.07. The line is minus 2.5, which I actually really like for either side, because I think if either side's going to win, Pez, it's not going to be a 1-2 point game. It's going to be by a couple of goals. The over is 162.5, Pez, and I tend to agree. I think that if you have Paddy Ryder play, even just him play, I think he really addresses that ruck situation that Gold Coast is struggling with. I think St Kilda need this game. They need to win back-to-back games. They need to get their season rolling. Gold Coast, they've sprung a couple of wins. Their confidence will be up, but Pez, I just think the Saints are going to be too good for them.
Well, I hope they are. What I've done is I've chucked my bonus bet from last week on Source. So I've put St Kilda, pick your own line, minus 14.5. Added that with Zach Jones to get 20 disposals. He's still paying a decent price after picking up 37 last week. And if the Saints win by 15 or more, Jones needs to touch the ball more than that and be winning it out of the middle. And then my man Max King against his brother to kick 2 goals. That's the odds of $5 and just my $10 bonus on it, Source.
Yeah, well, I've gone my bonus bet with this one as well, Pez. I've just chucked my $25 bonus bet on the Saints to win at $2.07 just for a nice little double up and some. So that'll get me potential winnings of $26.75. And Pez, I don't mind the double up there. As you and I both know, when you are using a bonus bet, it is important to make sure that you get a little bit more of a turn. You've gone the bit more dangerous and the outlaying one, and I've just wanted to double up and try and get over that ROI and get the positive.
You can go either way when you want with your bonus bet. Some people do try and go really ridiculous, like $50 odds and things like that, and you win about 1 in 50. That's why the odds are like that.
Yeah.
So we head to Giant Stadium with GWS taking on Essendon next.
Yeah, this game here is going to be a real spectacle. The Giants looked impressive last week, and Essendon looked impressive for 3 quarters, but the bookies think that the GWS Giants, with that leadership of Toby Green, is going to be too good. $1.38 favourites, $3.07 outsiders are the Bombers. The line, a 3-goal, a buffer, 18.5. Over under totals 171.5 pairs. I know you're all over the Giants. You're painting the town red. You're back on the Giant train, aren't you?
Well, I'd have to paint the town orange to be on the Giants and not on the Bombers painting it red. But I am. At $1.38, don't love it, but I've put it in a 3-leg same-game multi with Tab. The first half result, so GWS just to win the first half, and then GWS head-to-head to win the match. I've added that in with my pick-your-own total game points of under 190. I don't think they're going to get as high scoring as Essendon and Carlton were last week. So under 190 over there at Giant Stadium. And that gets me $2.10, and I'll put 20 on that.
20 on that, Pez, and I've put 10 down on something a little bit.
Cheeky!
Because I tend to agree with you. I think the GWS can get the job done, but I don't think they're going to blow out. They're not a team that really blows out teams, and especially not one with the young guns that Essendon are displaying. I've gone GWS 1-39. Lockie Ace to get 20 or more. He's done that the last month or so. And Toby Green, our man, to get 4 goals.
Oh,
Only because I really wanted him for 2 goals. I was paying $1.14 for 2 goals. It's not worth it. So I needed to get something a little bit cheeky. I've gone like 3 goals and it goes $1.79. So I had to go. I had to go
gotta be-
all in, Pez, and I've put 10 on that. That gives me odds of $7.25 for a nice little collective.
You've got to be able to bet on
$72.
Toby Green for behinds.
Yeah, that's
Get
what
6 behinds or something, and then
he's got to address that now. In the last month or so, every time Essendon has played, they've given away multiple goal kickers and multiple goal kickers in the 3. Someone as quality as Toby Green, I think he can get the 4 finally.
Well,
this is his week.
that's a really interesting line source. So listeners, stay tuned for our coin toss at the end, where we go through our lines and have a pick. The next game, North versus Collingwood, 18th versus 17th. Collingwood fans don't want to be speaking about footy at the moment.
Yeah, they definitely don't. They might after this week, Pez. This is a really good chance for Nathan Buckley to keep his season alive one extra week. But North Melbourne, after beating the last 3 weeks in a row, crushing their plus line, the line has come into plus 22.5. They're still outsiders at $3.36, and Collingwood, as you said, $1.33 favourites. Over under 167.5. Pez. North Melbourne will go in this and really think that they're a big shot, especially at 22.5.
They definitely might. I'm not putting a bet on this. I'm steering clear from this game source. Collingwood at $1.33. You just can't trust them anymore. I did bet on them on Anzac Day and thought they could get the job done over a poor Essendon side, and they just couldn't do it. Darcy Moore swinging back will help them dramatically. They've still got those old codgers in the midfield that can get the job done, and Brody Grundy needs to have a huge one against Goldstein, so that'll be a really good matchup to watch. Yeah. If I was going to go anything here, I'd be looking at a first half line on North Melbourne, which is probably around plus 11, plus 12.5, something like that, and then to fade away in that third or fourth quarter.
Yeah, I like that, Pez. I'm steering clear with this one as well. You're picking a team who hasn't won a game versus a team who's won one game. Not a real betting standpoint here, but I am leaning towards the plus 22.5 for North Melbourne. They will really go into it with some confidence, especially after leading for two quarters of a game against Melbourne, and Collingwood are much worse than Melbourne. So I'm steering clear, you're steering clear, but we're both leaning towards Melbourne at the line in some capacity.
Yeah, well, North Melbourne at the line there. I wonder if you're leaning towards Melbourne in the next game, because Melbourne take on Sydney at the MCG.
Yeah, it's a really big test for the Swans here coming to the G. They were impressive earlier this season against the Richmond Tigers at the G. Can they back it up again? So they beat last year's premiers, and now can they beat this year's premiers, considering Sportsbet's already paid out on them? So $1.31 for the Melbourne Demons. Sydney come in as outsiders at $3.48. The line is minus 22.5, and the over-under is quite low for a higher scoring team. I'd be checking the weather for that one, Pez. I think it's meant to rain. I think it's a 40% chance of rain on the weekend. So 158.5 is the line, but I still think that's quite low.
Yeah, total game points. Historically, Sydney are a team that like to,
Pile it on.
not really pile it on, but stop the scoring.
This season they have.
This season they have, so it's been a little bit different. I've seen Buddy in the Melbourne airport today on the news. So
they reckon he's going to play?
He's up and about and playing. So I really like that plus line for Sydney. I've steer cleared because of the weather factor and the teams at the moment, but if I was to have a bet right now, I'd be on Sydney at the plus line. I know Melbourne have been impressive and haven't lost, but they beat Richmond the other week, but I think they've got to fall over at some stage. It might not be this week, but they aren't going to be that really premiership threat, I think, and that's brave saying it for a team that hasn't lost yet. Big news during the week, though. Christian Petrarca. 7 years. 7 years. Over $7 million.
It's a really interesting move because I think history has shown that these big deals don't pay off. You've got Brody Grundy in his first year of a...
First 6 weeks or 7 weeks.
That's not looking good. He's a 7-year go. You've got a range of different players who've had those massive contracts.
You've got Kelly coming up who gets to choose. He's got signed for 2 years plus 8. So he gets to choose, do I want to play for GWS for the next 8 years for $8 million, or do I go elsewhere? That's massive.
That is a huge contract, Pez. I was having this debate during the week because we know that those big contracts generally haven't been a success because you are investing for someone in a long time, and there's a range of different things can go wrong. Buddy Franklin's big deal. I know we are talking Sydney here, so it is a little bit relevant. Buddy Franklin's deal, worth it or not worth it?
They have a premiership from it?
No,
not worth it.
Yeah, correct. But in terms of the football side of things, no. In terms of the marketing, do you think the increase in football awareness has risen in Sydney?
Oh, yeah, quite possibly had. I think he's sat a lot of those years out at the moment as well. So I feel like the Franklin move was great for the Sydney team, but they just couldn't get the job done and win a premiership. Will they do it with Buddy still on the side? I think their list is still a little bit too young to do that while Buddy's still there. So I'm going to call that a failure of a 9-year deal.
Yeah, I tend to agree, Pez, but they really needed that first premiership against Hawthorn that they gave away. I'm steering clear with this one. I do like what you're saying with the plus 22.5, Pez. I think Melbourne would really look at this game as a bit of a danger game. Sydney would see this as a winnable game. They're playing a team that is, touted to be a decent sort of team. They're 7-0. That backs against the wall. Sydney, they seem to really enjoy being in that position this year. I'm really looking forward to that Saturday night game.
Yeah, and are you looking forward to the showdown as well?
I'm interested to see what Port Adelaide are going to be wearing this week, whether they're going to be wearing the prison bars. I was hoping that you could you can bet on that one, because if they do wear it, they do wear the prison bars, which they had sort of flirted with, they will be fined, but they also will lose the 4 points. So from a betting standpoint, I don't know how that works.
So does that mean they actually have to win the game to lose the 4 points, or they just lose 4 points automatically of what they've already got?
That's a good point. Like if you were a team down the bottom, like if the positions and the talent that both teams have there was reversed and Adelaide was the team, do you reckon that would be the same threat?
If it was,
you'd be like, yeah, why not?
You're going to threaten North Melbourne to lose 4 premiership points. What are you going to put us on -4? Just jump on board and wear it. And
That's
just
what Collingwood. That's
stick
what
it up
North Melbourne should do against Collingwood. They should wear their stripes, because they're not allowed to wear their stripes against North Melbourne.
Oh, they're not?
No, so that's what they should do. But anyway, let's get into the betting standpoint for this one. Port Adelaide, as we sort of alluded to, are the favourites at $1.18. Adelaide, the outsiders, $4.90. The line is 30.5, Pez, which is an interesting one, because these games are normally competitive, though. The Western Australia derby didn't show much of competitive nature. The over-under, again, I think is quite low at 163.5, Pez. I know you're all over Port Adelaide in this one.
Yeah, well, I think Port Adelaide are going to get it done and get it done pretty easily, but I am a bit nervous about that line at the moment at 30.5, just because it's a showdown and it's a big game for Adelaide. They do need to bounce back after disappointing their fans last week. I've just gone a simple 3-leg same-game multi, and if Port Adelaide do kick the shit out of Adelaide, I think these 3 players will have a good day. So Dan Houston, 20+ disposals. Carl Amon, 20+ disposals. He's still paying fairly high, Carl Amon, and without Zach Butters in that team, he's a very big part of the link-up play for Port Adelaide. And Robbie Gray to kick a goal, who I think will be able to kick a goal. There's so many tall forwards down at Port Adelaide at the moment with Georgiadis and Todd Marshall and Charlie Dixon. It's hard to pick one of them to kick it. So go with the small Robbie Gray, and I think he'll be able to do that. That gets me an even odds of $2, and I've staked 20.
I like that bet a lot, Pez, because it sort of leans exactly into what I'm doing. I've only gone a 2-leg same-game multi. I agree that line is really, really big at 30.5. So I've gone to tab, pick your own line. I've gone just a 2-leg same-game multi, -17.5. You can pick your own line. You get $1.30 on odds on your own there. And funny enough, Pez backed it up with Carl Amon to get 20 disposals. And I've whacked the max on that one at $1.80. So it's a big call from me, because normally I don't put my max on that sort of a play, but that's what I'm going with that one.
There you go. Well, I like that with the Carl Amon at 20, especially with Zach Butters out of that side. That really is a good bet. We head into Sunday, and very interesting game, Hawthorn versus the West Coast Eagles at the MCG.
Yeah, it is an interesting game, Pez. It's interesting for a number of reasons. Hawthorn obviously not performing that well over the last month, despite that comeback win against the Crows. That means they are outsiders at $2.58. West Coast playing away from home, you probably would think they would be a lot shorter than $1.50. The line is 12.5. The over/under is 170.5. Really interested with your thoughts on this one, Pez, and I sort of think I know where you're going to head.
You think you know where I'm going to head? Well, Nick Nat-Nui got 15 disposals last week in the Derby, a week too late.
Prick.
You know where I'm going to head? Who do you think I'm on?
I think you're on West Coast, all over the line.
I am all over the line. I'll put the max on the line, -11.5. You know me too well. I just don't rate Hawthorn as a team at the moment. They don't have the players on the park to be able to do anything. I think West Coast have the talent around there to, kick a good score, win by 5, 6, 7 goals, and at -11.5, the bookies should have egg on their face at the end of it.
Did you say 11.5, Pez?
11.5 with tab.
Oh, that's really good.
Are Are you looking to change a bet at the
Well,
moment?
I put 50 on the line with Sportsbet at 12.5, and I'm just going to look through here. Hawthorn, where are we?
Jeez, you're going to double up, put 100.
I'm going to put 100, not on the pod, Pez, but if the line is still at 11.5, which it is, I'm going to take that exact same bet and put another max down.
And there's a lesson for the listeners out there. If you like a line at 12.5 or whatever it is, just make sure you check. And usually, Tab will have a better line than Sportsbet. If not the same, it'll be at least 1 point better.
That's a great little bit, Pez. That is done on that one. That could be dangerous for me losing, doubling up. But I do like that line. That was my bet already. But if you can get for an extra point, Pez, why wouldn't you? Speaking of extra points, Carlton are going to be looking for any points they can against the in-form, on-fire Western Bulldogs. They are 6-1, $1.32 favourites. Carlton are the outsiders at 3.41. Minus 23.5 is the line. Over under of 175.5.
Yeah, interesting line here. Will the Carlton supporters be backing them again? I'll be backing the Bulldogs to win this game. It can be a bit of a danger game for them, and I think some of the Bulldogs fans are starting to say that this week after losing to Richmond, not as confident as weeks before. Me not being as confident with a bet, I have to go.
Cheeky!
I have to go my cheeky. I've gone a little halftime, full-time margin type bet on Tab Source. I've gone at halftime the Bulldogs to be winning between 1 and 12 points. And then at the end of the game, the Bulldogs to win by 25 plus. So I need it to stay close and tight at the start in the first half. If that happens and then the Bulldogs just go away in that second half and win by 25 plus, that's odds of $9. So I've put a cheeky 10 on that at $9 odds.
$9 odds. That is quite realistic and surprisingly not cheeky in terms of what needs to happen in order for it to win.
Well, in the other way, Bulldogs halftime 13 plus and Bulldogs full-time 25 plus, paying $2.40. Wow,
you've really sussed out that market there, Pez. Don't mind that. But Pez, it's not as good as my bet because this is my you know, people have got the lock of the week. This is my money for VB lock of the week. No. And I'm going with my man. You know him, mate. Alex Keithy. He's going to get another 15 touches. Adam
backed him in the second week.
Adam Treloar will get 25 easy. And Tom Liberatore, surprising, he's still paying like $1.33 to get 20 disposals. He is an absolute lock for that one. I've put 25 down at $2.75. You can write that one in your little stats there, Dill. No. That'll make it 6 from 9.
Dylan
very nice.
Dylan from Instagram, he's written that down listening to this at the moment. And Dylan, you've given Sauce a big head at the moment. So
hey,
let's see what happens.
Head. It's just
listen
stats,
to the confidence.
Lie, confidence, baby, confidence. Stats don't lie.
listen to that. Last game of the round, Sauce. We've got Brisbane versus Fremantle, which was meant to be over in Perth at Optus Stadium, but it got moved. And I tried to put a little bet on when I heard the news on Twitter that it was going to be moved to Brisbane. I checked all the lines at the different agencies. Tab had already suspended the market, so they were onto it very quickly. Sportsbet, not onto it very quickly. I put a big bet on Brisbane minus 12.5 because I knew it was going to be over at Brisbane. And Sportsbet kept it in there for the next, say, 18 or so hours. The line actually moved out to 15.5 before they voided it, which was quite strange, but they obviously can do that, and disappointing.
Yeah, a little disappointing, Pez, especially when the line now reflects at minus 30.5. It's a really swung. It's almost double. Well, it has doubled. It went from 12 to 15, and now it's out to 30, which you can understand. Fremantle not wanting to lose over $2-point-something million by playing their game at SBS Stadium. So they did forfeit that right.
But the good thing is they do play Brisbane in the later rounds.
Yes.
So hopefully if COVID's gone away in Perth by then, they can play it over there and get that profit from the ticket sales.
Hopefully they get all that under control. Pez, that means that Brisbane, as sort of the bookies have let you know, minus 30.5, which is a huge line. That means they're favourites at $1.19. $4.70 for the Fremantle Dockers, over under of 161.5. Pez, did you double up, double down?
I did not double down. I still don't know where to go with this line. I get nervous when the line's around.
Huge.
It's around 5 goals because Fremantle with Nat Fyfe, with Darcy Tucker, with a few of those players, Matty Taverner up forward. They're all right in some cases, and they're playing
they
up at the
definitely
Gabba.
believe in themselves as well, Pez. Like Fyfe came out at the start of the season saying, we're not okay with just sort of floating around. We have a good enough list to make finals. We're ready now. 30.5 is a bit of an insulting line, I think, for them.
Big. I don't know if it's insulting, but it is tough to choose if you have to lean one way, and I've steered cleared from this, and I'll just wait for my multi.
Yeah, well, we do have to make a decision a little bit later during our coin toss pairs, but I had one more bonus bet to play, and I've put it in this one. Charlie Cameron to kick 2 or more goals. He's been in ripping form the last couple of times. He'll get the motorbike out and rev a couple of those. Zach Bailey to get 15 or more. He's been in ripping form, and I think with Lockie Neal out for another week, he'll probably get a couple of more posies. And I've also gone Daniel McStay as my anytime goal scorer in the first half, which bumps up my odds. He's done it the last 2 weeks, kicking them in the first quarter.
You're lucky McStay's at home. Goal square.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, so that's a horrible joke there, Pez. It's terrible. It's not as good as the other Daniel McStay joke that we know and love. Thank you for that and putting me off a little bit. But that gives me odds of $4, and I've chucked my bonus bet on that, hoping for a potential winnings of $75.
Well, you have to tell the listeners now what the other Daniel McStay joke is.
The reason I didn't do it the first time, Pez, is I can't remember, so I might move on.
Well, you can't remember because it's not Daniel McStay, it's Hugh McCluggage.
Oh, it is too.
Yep.
It is too. Lay it on the listeners there, Pez.
The old listener favourite, J-Man, sent this into the show. I don't know how long ago it was.
It was during COVID when we were doing, we were looking for other avenues, and we tried to stand up comedy, which we only had the one joke, and I stuffed it up by saying Daniel McStay. So
that's it.
Lay it on us, Pez.
It's a little bit of McDonald's one. What does Ronald McDonald take to the airport?
The old Hugh McCluggage.
Yeah, bit of McLuggage. So
it'd be better if you try and get McStay in there as well. Like maybe they're a couple. McStay and Hugh McCluggage go to the airport. What do they take? They take their McLuggage, something like that.
Oh yeah.
McStay, McLuggage. Yeah.
Well done.
Get the pun gun out, mate. Pew 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 pew.
Stick to the pod, mate.
Stick to winning multis, Pez. I know you got a sauce multi in there, Pez. Lay it on me.
I do have a sauce multi, and you're going to be pretty surprised with this one. Just GWS plus 6.5 against Essendon there. Port Adelaide plus 6.5 against Adelaide. West Coast plus 6.5 against Hawthorn, and Brisbane plus 5.5 against Fremantle. I think all those teams are going to actually win, so the plus 5.5 just for insurance there. Get you $1.80 for those 4 legs. I've gone a little bit different in terms of what I staked. I staked the max. The max 50 on it.
Yeah, Pez, I really considered that as well, but I thought, you know what? No, I'll stick to the rules, and I won't put that in there. So I've gone a sauce multi, and the sauce multi for listeners is when you think a team's going to win, you chuck them at the plus line, and to get yourself a little bit of insurance. I've gone Geelong, pick your own line, plus 20.5. Melbourne, plus 25.5. West Coast plus 21.5. And the only one I've done a little bit different with is I've gone Port Adelaide minus 15.5. As I said, that line of 30.5 was way too big. That gives me odds of $2.24. The original price of $2.17. I put a power play on that one and also put 25 to a nice little dub up, Pez, and that'll make it 3 weeks in a row that the sauce bet is up and about.
Well, there we go. We've got a round 8 bet slip finalised, done and dusted. Make sure you follow at Behind the Bound on Twitter, exclusive on Twitter. So if you're not following along there to see the bet slip and follow it along with the round, make sure you do that.
Yeah, make sure you leave a comment, 5-star review. That's how other people can know that we are a good podcast, even though I can't get through that sentence properly. And they can find us a lot easier on all the good podcast providers. Pez, as we do every week, we finish up with our coin toss.
It was a toss of the coin.
That 5 wins the toss.
Yes, it's been an unusual year for coin tosses. Big time again!
All right, Pez, a reminder of the rules for our fans and you, because last week you broke the rules. It is really simple. Just like a coin, there is 2 sides to every coin. There is 2 possible answers. I only need one from you, Pez. Short and sweet.
What about the 4-sided coin?
All I needed from you is the line. So don't confuse listeners here. I'll start things off. Richmond versus Geelong. The home team, Pez, in all of these is where the line is going to be the minus. Richmond versus Geelong, minus 8.5.
So Richmond minus 8.5. I'm going to go with the Tigers because that matches with my bet.
Head-to-head in the first one, Pez, I like it. Plus 8.5 Geelong for me. Next one, we've got Gold Coast and St Kilda. Gold Coast minus 2.5 favourites.
I get the Saints plus.
I like the Saints in that one as well. GWS versus Essendon. The Giants are favourites, a minus 18.5.
I don't love it, but I'm going to stick with the Giants because Essendon are a poor footy side.
Get that paint ready, Pairs. I'm all over the Giants. North Melbourne versus Collingwood, the Battle of the Stripes, plus 22.5, Pairs. You were tempted in our bet slip. You're going North, aren't you?
Nah, go Pies.
I'm going to go North Melbourne in that one. I like the confidence that you sort of displayed. Melbourne versus Sydney. The line is minus 22.5 in favour of the Demons.
Oh, you got to go plus 22.5 at the Swans.
I totally agree, Piers. Plus 22.5 is a great little bet. Port Adelaide versus Adelaide in the Derby. Minus 30.5, as we've mentioned 3 or 4 times.
Adelaide showed their true colours. Port Adelaide at the line.
Because now you've got to actually make a call. And 30.5. Yeah, all right. 30.5. I'll go with Port Adelaide as well. Hawthorn versus West Coast. We both are going the minus 12.5 in this one, Pez, because that's where our bet slip is. Though it is minus 12.5 because we are using Sportsbet for this.
Yep, Sportsbet just before we record. We always get the lines, so whatever they are, even if our bets are different, that's what it is.
Yeah, we use Sportsbet because it is the biggest market and it is the most up-to-date fluctuation in the lines. Western Bulldogs versus Carlton. The line is minus 23.5 in favour of the Bulldogs.
Dogs.
I'm going to go Blues in that one, Pez. I think they can make it interesting against those pretenders, the Bulldogs. Brisbane versus Fremantle. As we spoke this one, the line shifted, Pez. You can't have your 15.5. You can't have your 12.5. It is 30.5.
But I want my 12.5. No, if Brisbane touched up Port Adelaide by 50 points up there, I think they can do that to Fremantle.
Tend to agree with you, Pez. So I'm with Brisbane as well.
Just before we finish the coin toss sauce, I've just got one for you. Fried eggs or scrambled eggs?
Poached.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say something stupid like that. There's no
three-sided dice.
Just for the listeners to have an update, round 7, I had 5 right out of 9 in the line sauce, and you had 4. So where we differed, I got Richmond, you lost on the Dogs. You got GWS, I lost on Adelaide, and I got North, and you lost on Melbourne. Yeah, so I got 5, you got
my
4.
Face there, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm going to 32 for the season. You're on 30, so 2 behind this week. And how many do we have different?
We have a few different this week, Pez. I think
looks like we've got 3 different this week.
Yeah, that's perfect for the Sauce comeback and the Sauce to take the lead. That sounds good.
We'll see if that happens. You don't have a little coin toss for me or with the scramble?
Pants or shorts? Like, what a ridiculous one that you've
What's the weather?
Get off with it,
We'll
Pez.
take this serious. I've been Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next time, guys.